Assalamu alaikum, dear viewers. I'm your host Faisal Raza Khan, and you are watching Foresight. Viewers, as you all know that at the request of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, Organization of Islamic Cooperation having an extraordinary summit in Riyadh on 12th of this month. Caretaker Prime Minister Anwaarul Kakar just flown to Saudi Arabia. He will not only attend the OIC summit, which is an extraordinary move by the OIC, and there are lots of hopes hanging with this summit as Muslim Ummah is thinking about that there would be some concrete actions by the whole of the Islamic world, particularly regarding the ceasefire, provision of the humanitarian aid, humanitarian corridors, at least from the Rafah border, must have to be open to ease the sufferings of the Gaza people which are there because of the barbaric bombardment going on from the Israeli occupation forces from the last 1 month. It's more than a 1 month. There are approximately 30,000 tons of bombing and at the Gaza innocent people, unfortunately, and it is beyond any doubt that Israel is committing war crimes and genocide at the Gaza people. Pakistan is stressing hard upon ceasefire, along with that sending humanitarian aid to Egypt and further to distribute that aid to the Gaza people. Unfortunately, the situation is very dramatic and a very critical situation right now, because the West is supporting the occupation forces of Israel and illegitimate state of Israel for its barbaric actions. Pakistan just a day earlier, when the Caretaker Prime Minister addressing to the Economic Cooperation Organization 16th Summit, he urged not only the members of the ECO countries but also whole of the Islamic world and a whole of the world which is very vocal on democratic rights and rights of the humanity to at least go for a ceasefire and halt all actions by the Israel, and also urged all world community to take Israel accountable for its barbaric actions and war crimes. Not only that, urged the provision of the humanitarian aid, humanitarian corridors to get open for assistance of the Gaza people who are suffering because of non-availability of food, water, medicines and all other necessities, even the shelter. And it is unfortunate that still the Gaza people are waiting for that. Prime Minister not only attend this extraordinary summit, but also he held the meetings at the sideline of this summit with the world leaders and urged the Islamic leaders to have united response to the Israeli barbaric actions and to at least to create some humanitarian pause, at least the humanitarian corridors get open from the Rafah border to get this aid smoothly sent to the Gaza people. So to talk on this very important topic, we have in our studios Dr. Wasim Ishaq. He is an international relation expert. We are fortunate that we have senior Palestinian journalist, researcher and scholar with us in our studios, Hatem Nasser. Most welcome to you, sir, as well. And we have Brigadier retired Hamid Rashid Malik. He is online. He is an international relation expert as well. So most welcome to you, sir, as well. So my first question related to particularly the ground situation. I straight away come to you, Hatem, that how do you see right now the current situation of Gaza? What are the sufferings? We know that the Gaza people are suffering very hard, but we don't have to ignore the West Bank people as well. So what is the situation right now, and what about the Israeli aggression going on?
Yes, as you have witnessed, even by lives, people are doing coverage not only by TV channels. There were more than 10,000 casualties. More than 70% of them are kids. Beside that, there has been destruction of all the main life facilities, hospitals, schools, even governmental buildings. Israel is trying, if they cannot reach the leadership of Hamas, if they cannot reach the fighters of Hamas, they want to make Gaza destroyed, and they want to make the future of Gaza mainly trying to rebuild for the coming 2-3 years or 5 years, which will make life for the Gazan people very difficult, and for Hamas, if they come back to leadership or governing somehow, or even participating in governing, they will be blamed somehow for what happened to the Gazan people. This is in Gaza. In West Bank and inside the occupied Palestinian areas, which there are almost 2 million Palestinians living inside what's called now Israel, and they have the passport of Israel, but they are not fully recognized as citizens. They are suffering daily arrest of their kids. They issued a law yesterday that if you are a citizen and you even like or share or watch any social media content that's related to Gaza or the resistance in Gaza, you will be arrested and jailed for 1 year. So there's a lot of pressure on the people inside the Palestinian occupied areas before 1948. And in West Bank, more than 100 casualties. In normal days, this would have been big news, but because of 10,000 casualties in Gaza, we see this as small number. But in West Bank, there is a lot of pressure. The occupation forces, army, and also police are arresting people, killing people in Jenin, in Khalil, in many other cities, just to terrorize the population of the West Bank and make it difficult for them to participate or support Gaza by
any. Why the Israeli illegitimate state is actually pushing Gaza people from southern part? They want it from southern part either to the Mediterranean side or to the southern side. Why they are pushing? Why they are pushing hard and urging people to go from that area? Why?
Because the northern area is the built area, the main cities of Gaza. The southern area is less developed. A lot of the areas there are agriculture lands and not much developed. So it will be easier for the Israeli forces to attack the public when they are in tents, when they are on open area. The main target of Israel to isolate the resistance, which is Hamas and the other groups, in the destroyed building area, which is in the north. So go step by step with the minimum number of civilians in those areas to isolate the fighters slowly. But this plan cannot work for a very long time, because now after the destruction, if you have seen the footage and the videos, after the destruction, when Israeli forces enter any street, it's not easy for them to come out of that street. The resistance comes from everywhere, use the destruction of the building as shields and attack the tanks and other military equipment. So it's not difficult to enter Gaza. It was isolated. They don't have defense outside.
I think now OIC, an extraordinary summit is going to be held in Riyadh at the request of Saudi Arabia. Do you think that there would be anything concrete? Because the world leaders are very much in mood that they have at least some sort of united response to the Israeli aggression, and for the ease of those people who are actually suffering on ground, the Gaza people?
I'm very optimistic about the outcome, because this is one such platform which is a combined voice of all the Muslim Ummah, and Muslim Ummah represents about 2 billion of the world population as against complete 8 billion population. So 2 billion population is a huge voice, and this OIC summit is a follow up of the Arab League summit which also happened in Cairo. So there also we witnessed that there was one unified Arab voice that this barbaric actions in Gaza must end forthwith, and there should be humanitarian paths and humanitarian corridors, and also to alleviate the sufferings of people in Gaza and West Bank, some humanitarian aid should also be flown in. So this Arab League, now from the OIC, it is the amalgamation of Arab League as well as all the other Muslim countries. So therefore, I assume that the timings of this and the overall content which is going to be discussed is very, very important. And we have also seen Qatar taking a lead role in shuttle diplomacy. We have seen Amir Qatar visiting UAE, and he's also planned to visit to Cairo in few days. We have also seen President Erdogan also taking a lot of lead, and we also seen Pakistani Prime Minister and Pakistani government taking also a lot of pain in reaching out to the people. So this is through diplomacy that we are trying to raise our voice, but OIC is one platform which will give one unified voice, which is I am sure very important. And as the international system is now under transition, where we don't see a unipolar power now asserting to an extent, And we have already seen that Russia and China had already proposed a ceasefire in the UN Security Council, which was vetoed by then United States. So we assume that China and Russia would also be supporting with whatever voice finally comes out of the OIC. So in the evolving international and regional order, I am very optimistic that the outcome of this OIC summit would, at least to an extent, would give some way to a sort of a pause in the infighting, and also for the humanitarian corridors and more humanitarian assistance going to Gaza.
We have to be hopeful on that aspect, and diplomatically every country including Pakistan trying hard to have at least some sort of ceasefire, some sort of peace prevail in Gaza and West Bank, so that the people suffering must have to be addressed. Brigadier Ahmed Rashid Sahab, right now when we oversee the international diplomacy, as Israel is not taking anything in account, even its international law, international humanitarian law, human rights law, Fourth Geneva Convention, or just recently today when UNGA, United Nations General Assembly, has adopted 6 of the resolutions in which Israel opposed along with its Western backers. So how do you see whether OIC communique and the joint statement which comes after the summit that would affect whole, because Israel is not ready to accept anything?
I would like to agree with Dr. Wasim that OIC summit will have a very important and significant impact, not only Israel's future course of action, but also about the stopping of hostilities of the Israeli armed forces against innocent Palestinians. What we have seen as far as the international civil population is concerned, that targeting of the hospitals, targeting of the ambulances and innocent civilians, as well as blockade of humanitarian assistance to the bereaved Palestinians. What we see now, about more than 200,000 Palestinians living without food, without shelter, without water for the last 1 month. These miseries of the Palestinians have urged the peace-loving population globally to condemn Israeli hostilities. And in that backdrop, what we see that genesis of OIC was when Al-Aqsa Mosque had arson incident by an extremist Jew. And being the, I think, unified voice of the Muslims, in absence of any concrete steps and tangible steps taken by the United Nations Security Council, now there is an added responsibility on the OIC. And presently, the Iran, Pakistan especially, and Saudi Arabia will be the major mover and shakers, which will force the other Arab as well as Muslim countries to come on forefront and take tangible steps to persuade world as well as also pressurize Israel that if it wants no retaliation coming physically from any of the regional or Muslim countries, to stop barbaric action against the Palestinians.
So how much, Brigadier Ahmed Rashid, how much you are hopeful about the OIC summit and its outcome particularly? Would it be the united one, a united response, or a response which make Israel to have ceasefire and humanitarian provisions for the Gaza people?
I am very hopeful because of the 2 latest development which has taken place. First, that Iranian president has been invited by the Saudi Arabia to have discussion about the Israeli and Hamas war and what effect it can have on the region. And also there would be, I think, a unanimous statement coming out. And in that statement, what the world would be interested to know that how OIC member states are going to react in future against Israel. And there will be, I think, demand of sanctions by the globe and by Europe as well as by America also against Israel. And also they will pressurize the United Nations Security Council also to take concrete steps going up to also deployment of the peacekeepers in the region. And also the globe must be persuaded by OIC, and they will demand that the United Nations Security Council resolutions of two-state as well as the international status of the Jerusalem should be implemented now without any delay. Here we must also acknowledge that Hamas, though, and the Palestinian, though, may be tactically being defeated and suffering lot of casualties and losses, but strategically they have won. They have made world realize the dark side of the Israel, the barbaric attitude of Israel and Jews, and they have also shown to the world that Israel is the spoiler of peace in the Middle East.
Obviously, your point well taken, Atham. Hopes are there that Palestinian leadership would also be the part of OIC summit. So, if you just throw light on that, President Mahmoud Abbas would have meetings with the OIC Secretary General or meeting with the Saudi Arabian leadership at the sidelines, and what would be the ultimate stance of the President?
From my understanding, the Palestinian Authority will try to get the maximum support for the Palestinians in Gaza, either humanitarian support, the pause of the war, or maybe ceasefire, beside more of public and political win in UN and in many other platforms. Beside that, there is a call by the OIC members for the Palestinians to be more united. Because part of what happened is that Palestinian Authority, after the differences with Hamas, it kept dividing from 2006, 2007 till now, which is making things a little bit easier for the Israelis to attack this group now, this group later, and vice versa. This is also on the table. We hope that OIC will push for unity in Palestine. Plus that this, as the Brigadier said, tactically, maybe Israel will win. In the long run, it is a win for Palestinians, but the cost is very high.
Yeah, definitely, it is.
Decreasing the cost is one of the main goals for Palestinians. There is no need to kill 20,000 or 30,000 every attack to prove that, okay, this Palestinian cause needs a solution, a permanent solution. OIC already knows, all the members, what can be a sign of, or a light of optimism, it is the meetings between Turkey, Iran, Saudi Arabia, Pakistan, all the major powers in Islamic countries on the same table. So they agree on united kind of policy, at least about this issue, about this front. And later on they can work on other differences, because again, United States and other supporters of Israel, they use the fact that, okay, we can pull a string here, pull a string there, isolate this power, so Palestinians and few of their...
Yeah, definitely, you are very right that there must have to be a negotiated settlement, and the two-state solution must have to be pushed forward diplomatically, rather than just this kind of barbaric war and the fighting. It is not going to work really. So, Dr. Wasim, Prime Minister is very hopeful. Prime Minister has urged during the ECO summit as well, and urged not only the members of ECO but also the international community to make Israel accountable. And now when he is going to Saudi Arabia, having lots of meetings over there, so what are the hopes, and what would be the ultimate Pakistan stance within the OIC summit and as well as the meetings with the Islamic leadership?
I think this OIC summit is also very significant from two aspects. One, historically there had been intra-Arab issues, conflict of interest, etc. But this is first opportunity of this OIC summit when there is absolute rapprochement between intra-Arab as well as with Iran, and there is a one common Muslim voice in support of Palestinians.
Definitely.
So this is a very unique opportunity whereby there are no differences among the Muslim states as well as among the Arab states. So this is a great development. From the Pakistan's perspective, we have seen that Pakistan's voice ever since 1948 has always been for the cause of Palestine as well as for the cause of Kashmir. So from our perspective, the two-state solution is the only way forward, and this is what we have been consistently maintained for last 75 years. And just about a few weeks ago, we were talking of Oslo Accord 30 years.
Yes.
So unfortunately, that was based on two-state solution, but who failed to implement that? It was all the United States who made this, and then the state of Israel. So unfortunately now, it's about time. The world community has realized that if we want to create a globalized world with the norms of peace and stability, then we have to come back to this two-state solution. And this is what Pakistan has been professing since last 75 years. This is what our Prime Minister and Foreign Minister have been saying since long. So therefore, I am sure Pakistan would maintain the same stance and would also urge the OIC countries to have one voice for two-state solution, not in the some future time frame, but immediately after cessation of hostilities, the post-war Gaza work should start on two-state solutions. And I am sure this is the right time when the entire international opinion is also favoring us, and we have seen a lot of public coming out in EU countries and the US and chanting slogans against their government's policies for this Gaza and overall for the in support of Palestinians. And we have also seen certain Israeli peace activists also giving a lot of statements against Netanyahu and in support of two-state solution. So I am sure this is the right time. We just have to pursue the diplomacy as the only option and the viable option for two-state solution.
And Brigadier Hamid Rashid Sahab, Saudi Arabia has a pivotal role in uniting whole of the Muslim Ummah, and we have seen this is the second time that at the request of Saudi Arabia, OIC Extraordinary Summit is there in Riyadh. Earlier there was an extraordinary executive committee meeting of the foreign minister were held just last month. So how do you see Saudi Arabia's role particularly to resolve this crisis?
If we see the historical background of this Arab as well as Israel conflict, we see that Saudi Arabia has always taken pride in supporting the Palestinian cause. And in that context, Pakistan also has always been on the forefront to not only provide their wholehearted support, humanitarian support, whatever and whenever our Palestinian brothers need it. And this time, Saudi Arabia is in the forefront, but are being supported by Pakistan wholeheartedly also. And as you already highlighted, that our caretaker Prime Minister, while addressing the issue, he hinted upon that the barbaric attitude and hostility of the Israelis against the bereaved Palestinian should be taken seriously, and these are actually the war crimes. And also, as far as the Kashmir is concerned, Indian hostilities are actually the war crimes against innocent people. And Saudi Arabia, I think, has also given its mind as well as hosting of two summits is concerned. And when the US State Secretary for Foreign Affairs visited Saudi Arabia and wanted to meet with Mohammed bin Salman, he was made to wait for a certain period of time to make him realize that their unanimous support to Israel is not being taken as a happy state of affairs by the Arabs and by the Saudi Arabia. And also that Saudi Arabia now is in a position to finance humanitarian assistance as well as the losses of the Palestinians, so that when the rehabilitation work is carried out, I think Saudi Arabia, UAE and Pakistan will provide wholehearted support. And also we see that in this summit also, the Saudi Arabia and Pakistan, also with Iran and other UAE and other countries would like that a strong message should be conveyed to Israel, so that in absence of any concrete step by the globe and by West as well as by the United States, Israel should be made to know that there are other powers also. And I think OIC strong statement coming will be supported by China and Russia also, because as well as the international environment is concerned, China and Russia have showed their concern and demanded immediate ceasefire by Israel.
Yeah, definitely they are trying hard to have that in the UN Security Council particularly. So, Brigadier Retired Hamid, how do you see about the outcome, and particularly is there any chance that there would be the appointment of any special representative to resolve this Middle East crisis by the OIC or the Islamic countries? Is there any chance about that?
Certainly, there will be tangible steps now which will be taken by OIC, and as we are debating and discussing it, it will be certainly on the forum and being discussed and proposed by our caretaker Prime Minister, by the Saudi delegates and Crown Prince also. And in that context, what we see that Saudi Arabia will be given a lead role so that it negotiate a peace deal also. And presently we have seen that Qatar and even the United States has offered for diplomatic interaction between Israel and other Arab countries, but it will be taken in that context when there is a, I think, very respectable solution for the Palestinians also. And the aspiration and the rights of the Palestinian will be given priority, and already decided the two-state solution is the only viable and pragmatic solution which can be implemented for ensuring a long-lasting peace in Middle East.
So, thank you very much. Dr. Wasim, how do you see, particularly when we are focusing on the OIC summit, and do you think that there is an urgent need, because it's a critical juncture right now, and there is a need to have some sort of mediatory steps as well, along with ceasefire? First the ceasefire, and there should be some sort of mediation for the two-state solution, and this is the right time, as you have rightly mentioned earlier. So what you are actually expecting about the outcomes of the OIC summit, including the mediation?
There are 2-3 factors which we must keep in mind, that the prevailing regional environment today in the entire Middle East, and in those environments when this OIC summit is being held up, we have seen UAE, Bahrain had already done a rapprochement with Israel, and Saudi Arabia was they had almost finalized their rapprochement with Israel, but now their public aspirations vis-a-vis the government policies. So, I am sure there is a huge pressure on the leadership to deliver on account of relief to the Palestinians. So, in that account, and Saudi Arabia, since it is already in a lead role for conducting this OIC summit,
obviously.
So, there is a public aspiration which is now coming from the people of Saudi Arabia and from all the other Arab countries and the Muslim countries, that Saudi Arabia as a lead Muslim country and lead Arab country should come up with one voice, and that is first to have a immediate ceasefire, so that to alleviate the suffering of people of Gaza. Second would be then humanitarian corridors and humanitarian assistance, which is required to be reaching out to the people in terms of medicines, food and water and electricity. And third would be then reconstruction of all those areas. I am sure it is a huge, I have done a research about more than about $30 billion are immediately required for immediate reconstruction of those destroyed portions which till now have been destroyed, but actually it could be even much more. But we have also seen that United States, EU and France especially, they have already announced about $100 million and 100 million euros as humanitarian assistance, and EU has separately announced 25 million euros for humanitarian assistance. So, the things, tangible things are coming out. We are just waiting for the final outcome. I am sure the communique would contain immediate cessation of hostilities. So, that will be a positive outcome. And if we already take Russia and China also on board, so the same can be voiced at the UN Security Council, as we have seen General Assembly passing 6 resolutions. So, OIC passing another resolution, Arab League passing yet another resolution, and supported by 2 permanent members of Security Council. I am sure there will be a lot of pressure on Netanyahu to review its policy, which is ongoing.
Definitely
sufferings
he has
of the
to
people.
review its policy, because this is the barbaric policy which is already going on. So, Etham, if we just go through the sufferings of the Palestinians right now, what's the ground situation when we are talking about the medical aid, particularly the people who are suffering because of the injuries, they don't have the medicine available, even anesthesia is not available, and the operations done without that. It is very unfortunate. So, how you categorize this whole situation, and what are the basic needs right now which are urgently required?
Basic needs are medical aid, water and food. It's that simple, beside fuel of course, and water. But Israeli authorities are controlling this since 1967, because even when they gave the Palestinian Authority before Gaza was controlled by Hamas, they gave control on the ground, but the water and the fuel and everything else will be controlled, including what will come from Egypt. Daily, Gaza used to receive 500 trucks. Now it's receiving every 10 days or 20 days, 20 trucks, 50 trucks, which less than 10% of the needs. Now we are not only seeing hospitals without the supply, we are seeing destruction of hospitals. The patients are discharged before getting the enough treatment because there is no equipment, there is no medical staff even to help them. A lot of the international staff which used to work in Gaza left during the last gate with Egypt for the international workers. So now what Gaza needs, ceasefire, beside the humanitarian aid, which will hardly ease the pain for 1 month to come, then talking about the future and two-state solution, etc., etc. So we hope that the OIC will demand seriously the ceasefire, beside a united stand that there will be no peace and normalization with Israel from one state here and one state there. It will be united Arab and Islamic front, similar to what King Abdullah, the late King Abdullah of Saudi Arabia, have initiated in 2000, that there will be a peace initiative, give Palestinians their state, then you will get peace and normalization from other countries. If you don't give that to, which Netanyahu refused. Till now, he's using the process of peace, but there is no immediate delivery of peace for Palestinians. So he's taking more lands and attacking more Palestinians, forcing them out of their houses and killing the maximum number of them, including giving the civilian Israelis weapons to kill Palestinians now. This was issued by the Interior Minister of Israel.
It is unfortunate. It is really unfortunate. Whatever is happening, and the Israeli occupation forces policies is really condemnable, as our caretaker Prime Minister, along with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs today, also condemned Israeli aggression which is going on. And Brigadier Retired Hamid, how do you see, particularly when we are talking about OIC summit, and there are lots of influential Islamic countries who has very fruitful relations with the big powers, particularly P5, when it comes to any resolution regarding the ceasefire in the US Security Council, UN Security Council, US and its allies are always vetoing it. So this precedent they set, and they are at the back of Israel. So how do you see that Islamic world is going to approach, having sort of rapprochement with the P5, so to resolve this issue once forever and have the two-state solution?
Faisal, here we must admit that failure of the United Nations Security Council, as well as overall by the United Nations. See, when the United Nations Secretary General, he says that Israel action are condemnable, the Israelis has the audacity and sagacity to criticize him openly. And it also shows
even demanding resignation of the UN Secretary General.
Yeah, this is what I am saying, that it also shows the certain fault lines in our international system, that our international system is not based on any justification, fair play, or equal rights for the human beings globally. We see when it comes to Israel, when it comes to the barbaric attitude of Israel, United States as well as Europe, they keep mum. But when it comes to Iran, there are a lot of sanctions which are being imposed, just saying human rights violations. These double standards by the international standard should also be questioned in OIC. And I think that 2-3 important aspects which should be considered by OIC member states as far as this conflict is concerned. They will also review critically the Israel's irresponsible acts of having strikes in Lebanon as well as in Syria, as it has a tendency to spill over to the other regions, other Arab countries. And in that case, the complete region will be mired by the instability and the rapprochement, what we talked of, that certain Arab countries wanted that to ensure peace, there should be rapprochement between Israel and the Arab countries, that it has been destroyed by the irresponsible acts of the Israel. And now the Arab world, they stand united, that Palestinians were right when they used to say Israel is an illegal state and it doesn't want to live peacefully in the region. And overall, OIC will also be considering that in such a scenario, how a long-lasting peace has to be ensured in the region. As you already highlighted, either it will be certain representatives or some peacekeeping or peace enforcement operations which will be launched in the area. And I think this is the time when the world must stand united, and they should also appoint either Security Council P5 you said, but what we have seen that P5 they are just hostage to their strategic interest. America has twice vetoed and not allowed any tangible action to be taken by the Security Council.
Yes,
And
definitely.
as far as
There
the
must
General
have to be
Assembly is
urgency
concerned,
from the P5 as well to have peace in Middle East as well. So, Haitham, if I put a question related to that, how do you see particularly the Pakistan's political, diplomatic, moral and humanitarian support to the Palestinians, because Pakistan and Pakistani nation is always there for Palestinians, and at this juncture Pakistan is very much worried about our brothers and sisters there.
Yes, I wish other countries are copying what Pakistanis are doing. Yani, in Pakistan, you can sense the support even without war. When you say you are Palestinian, you feel how they are passionate about supporting Palestine, about the issue of Palestine. In this crisis specifically, we have seen support from all levels, government level, even army level, and yani support from NGOs. People are going for demonstrations from all the different parties, right and left, and even some youth and students of universities. So Pakistan is one of the supporters, yani undenied support in the history of Palestine, and one of the backbones of support for Palestinians, even if sometimes Pakistan cannot offer much of an aid or much of a political or military support. But in this crisis, we have seen a very clear statement from all the parties and from all the political and military, and even President of Pakistan have said enough statements. We wish that in the other countries there is this kind of public opinion and support for Palestine, and this debate about the details of the issues, the analysis of what will happen. In other countries, it's only breaking news and that's it, which makes the public always wondering.
Yeah, definitely. Haitham, it's our obligation when it comes to the Pakistani nation, Pakistan's government. It's our obligation to extend as much as support, as much as assistance to our brothers who are suffering right now. Dr. Wasim, there are fears that this Israeli barbaric aggression which is going on and the innocent Palestinians, that might spill over, that might extend to any other country, because as Brigadier Sahab rightly mentioned, that attacks on Lebanon, in Syria, it is going to spill over. Do you think that if this matter is not going to resolve, there are fears that this war is going to be extended?
Yes, there are absolutely, there are chances that war would spill over to Lebanon as well as to Syria. But one thing you must have noticed, that both Lebanon and Syria have demonstrated a lot of responsibility in terms of the provocative and preemptive strikes by Israel. They have not responded so far. But one thing that Hassan Nasrullah's public statements and his address to the people, he has said that if the Israeli barbaric actions continue, then they would be forced to take a response, the action in response. So whatever then they would be doing would be in retaliation to the Israeli barbaric actions. So there are chances, however, that would be, I think, not in support of the overall peace and stability of the region. And we have seen last 1973 war, 1967 wars, probably then it would not help the region to then eventually attain the peace and stability. So therefore, we must take all out measures that the war should not spread to other countries and the entire region.
Thank you very much, Dr. Wasim, for being with us in studios. Thank you very much, Haitham Nasir, for being here in the studios, and thank you very much, Brigadier Retired Hamid Rashid Malik as well. Thank you for being online. Viewers, it is as our panelists suggested, and also the Islamic world is hoping for a concrete, decisive and united response to the Israeli aggression, for immediate ceasefire, and have the humanitarian provisions for the people of Gaza right now who are suffering on ground, even not only Gaza but also the West Bank people. they are hoping, the Islamic world is hoping that OIC Extraordinary Summit in Riyadh is going to be decisive in that regard. So Caretaker Prime Minister Anwaarul Kakar is also there, having not only attending the summit but also having sideline meetings. So there are lots of hopes hinging with this extraordinary summit. This is all with the for the today's Foresight. This is the time to sign off. Allah Hafizullah.